What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Talk of the Tundra, your Green Bay Packers podcast, as a proud partner of the Eurostep Podcast Network and the Blue Wire family. As always, and returning to the host, to the mic stand, is me, Numac. And joining me after hosting what was a wonderful solo pod is my lovely co-host, Jordan Tresky. Jordan, how you doing, buddy?
Doing well. Just noticed my colors are very popped. It's not really good for the audio, but I'm going to exaggerate a popped collar.
It's a normal size collar. Find a new slant.
Normal, exactly.
YouTube viewers.
Yes. Find a new slant, Christian Watson. He's a wide
God.
receiver.
God. Kudos to you, buddy. I really liked your solo pod on Thanksgiving. So good job doing that. As well as thank you to everyone for listening to it during your post Thanksgiving food comas and everything else. But we're gonna get into it a little bit since I didn't get to talk about it at all, and Lord knows everybody's got to hear what I have to say about this. That's why you guys tune in. Duh. But no, the big win for the Packers on Thanksgiving, 29-22. I was frankly shocked at the outcome. Like, I know that there was optimism that they could kind of stick around, and in our preview pod with Malcolm and Tyler, we kind of touched on like that it might be a possibility, but that it wasn't likely. And I don't think I saw this sort of domination as an outcome in any sort of prediction. Like you said in your solo pod, 29-22, and it was never really that close. It never felt that close. I was making homemade green bean casserole before my first Thanksgiving for lunch, and I turn around as the game kicks off, and I'm watching the first play, and I'm dumping cream mushroom soup into a bin with the beans to bake, and I turn around and I see that the first completion to Christian Watson. I was like, oh, this is how this is gonna start. We're actually gonna complete the pass like we did, or unlike we didn't week one last year against the Vikings. So then I dump it, I put it in the oven, I immediately turn around, like, oh, it's 7-0 already. Like, it was a really exciting fast start that I think, shout out my dad, he had put it pretty simply, is that they had that big play to come out with it, and they realized that they could probably fight against this team. If they don't have that good first drive, it probably is a very, very different game. But I think they just had some confidence instilled in them from that first drive that they can go against this defense that had kind of stifled them for the first half hour of that game earlier in the season. So kudos to Jordan Love and Christian Watson for doing a good service to this team and putting some fight in them to start the game.
Yeah, I'm still. I know we have bigger business to attend to, but I'm still very impressed by just how everything came together. It was as complete of a performance as we've seen. I would include the Bears game, really, because it wasn't until the second half where the wheels fell off for Chicago. Everything, gathered steam for the Packers. It was just like it's about making your own being statement. It's what we saw in the first Packers live game, even with Jared Goff throwing an interception on that opening drive. It was just to have some kind of punch like that. Like, it changes the game, and we've seen this team play really well when they've scored to start games. It just feeds on through, and I think that's really, especially going into this week, that's really important to kind of put your foot down and really kind of send a message.
Right, and I think, like you said, they played a complete game. I'm trying to pull up the play-by-play here, but the Packers go touchdown, downs, field goal, punt, and then that missed field goal at the end of the half. But then they end the game with a touchdown, 2 punts, and then they down the game, or knelt it out to end the game, which I think says a lot about the defense too. Like, the defense just played so well. And like the bend don't break defense is sometimes maddening. Just to take all your yards, but when it comes down to the red zone, we're not going to let you have it. But they create a lot of turnovers. Rashawn Gary had a huge day, but I think they kind of kept everybody in check. They had Amon-Ra St. Brown had 9 catches for 95 yards that didn't really come until the end of the game. David Montgomery was held to 71 yards. Jahmyr Gibbs had 50 yards. Like, there were some stats being put up in the second half of the game, but it just never felt that close because Jared Goff had multiple fumbles. I think he had 3 fumbles, and then Packers got on top of all of them. They were really making plays, and Rashawn Gary was getting home when he needed to. Logs 3 sacks along with that forced fumble. Carl Brooks had a wonderful day. It was just like I said, they looked like they had a fire lit under them, and it was really good to see them play with some passion and play with some intention to really go into Ford Field and make the Lions feel how the Packers felt earlier in the year when the Lions came into Lambeau and kicked their ass. Sorry, Johnny, my bad. But yeah, it was just exciting. Like we even saw like Jonathan Owens making plays. Like I just thought it was just a truly complete game, which is how they'll need to play the rest of the season to maybe sneak into a playoff spot, as we talk about that a little bit later. So I guess with that, Jordan, do you want to talk cheeses? Because we have a list here, and I don't think either one of us have a complete list of who we actually want to hand these cheeses out to.
I think I have two, but again, a game like this, there's plenty of debate about who
gets them.
the ultimate. Yeah, it's our game balls. That's what we're doing right now.
That's right.
Just imagine a football made of cheese.
A big brick of cheddar you're gonna throw through the air.
Jared Goff would probably fumble it too. I don't know.
Maybe. Oh, before we get into it, shame on Fox for not giving Jordan Love his turkey leg. I was so excited. That's all I wanted to see is him munching on a turkey leg. And stupid. Just stupid. I don't know what sort of flub that is if they were that confident that the Lions were going to win and they wanted to save $500 as a multi-billion-dollar organization to not make a Green Bay Packer themed roasted turkey is like what I imagine it was.
Is that true? Is that true that the Lions...
Listen, man. I can't think of another reason why it wouldn't be true.
Because the other theory was Greg Olson dug into the turkey, and that was the only turkey that they prepared. And he has vehemently denied it, but I'm just saying.
Right.
Why would they cook multiple turkeys? Everything about it was just so strange.
Right. But the point being is that if you are Fox, again, multi-billion-dollar organization, have multiple turkeys. Right? What if it gets dropped? There are contingencies in this stupid idea that would necessitate more than one turkey. So if you get on TV and you see Greg Olson fisting the goddamn thing, then you know you can have a second turkey on hand. And to deny Jordan Love turkey in which a game that he goes 22 of 32, 268, 3 touchdowns, a 125 passer rating, and 40 yards on the ground running is absolutely shameful.
You're very aggrieved right now.
I am. It's annoying. Like, Packers fans don't get to be aggrieved very often, so I'm going to be aggrieved when I can.
Is that true? I think we have plenty of...
No, from NFL like media.
Yeah.
Like, from football-wise, no. I don't know. Regardless, I'm just very annoyed that you get a guy.
This is a fan base that literally hated Joe Buck and Troy Aikman. Like, you're off my TV.
Every team hates Joe Buck and Troy Aikman.
I don't.
I think the majority of every fan base does not like them. I'll put it this way. It's enough of an issue that if you go to Joe Buck's Twitter account, at least it used to be. I'm not sure if it still is, but I'm almost certain it is. He must not have a Twitter account anymore, but he did. Oh no, here it is. Nope, it's not. Yeah, it's not there anymore. It's not there anymore. But his bio used to read, "I hate your favorite football team."
Like, yeah, I just think that's just people being idiots.
Right, but
they take any criticism of valid probably because they're commenting on the game and things not going to get their way and taking it very personally and taking slights that are just said for it's I don't know.
Right.
Football commentary is strange because you don't have this with we're really off on a tangent right now.
Yes, we are.
But we don't. I can watch a Bucks game and I watch my local broadcast. I can watch a Brewers game and I watch my local broadcast.
Yeah.
Your local broadcast for a football game is the radio, and not everybody listens to the radio.
That's a good point.
And I think that's why it's so stupid to me. It's like Grow up.
No, I get it. Doesn't mean that other fan bases don't think that Joe Buck likes their team. You know what I mean?
I don't care.
Regardless, Jordan Love didn't get to sink his teeth into a big juicy leg of turkey
No, he didn't.
on Thanksgiving, and that's stupid.
But he
So,
brought the stuffing.
but he was stuffing, that is for sure. So four cheeses. Stats already aforementioned for one Jordan Love. 86.6 PFF grade. He is the first candidate for this week's cheeses. Christian Watson is the second. 5 catches on 7 targets, 94 yards, and that touchdown. 87.7 PFF grade. Just all around good game. What'd you say?
By far his best of the year.
By far his best of the year, without a
I
doubt.
think
His
the
best game
third
of the
best
year.
ranked wide receiver for week, what was it, 12?
That probably tracks. That tracks. Yeah, he just. I was thinking about this during I think like on Thanksgiving or Friday or whatever it was, and I'm gonna be really annoyed if Christian Watson does the same exact thing he did last year, where he goes on this absolute tear for 6 games, and then we go or 7 games now, and then we go into next year like, all right, Christian Watson wide receiver number 1, Romeo Dobbs or Dontavian Wicks 2, Jaden Reed 3, and
Oh, no, don't do that to my boy, Jane Reed.
I think I think 2 and 3 is closer than 1, 2, than 1 and 2. Does that make sense? Like I think by the end of the season, the gap between 1 and 2, whoever it might be, whether it be Jaden Reed or Christian Watson or Dontavian Wicks or Romeo Dobbs or whoever it is, that gap I think will be farther apart than 2 and 3. I think the separation of receiving talent is going to come out over these next 6 games.
I do agree with that.
Like
I think we're already seeing it,
Yeah.
honestly. And yeah, I mean, part of it is just different. I mean, Jada Reed is a candidate for this too, not to spoil it. But Jada Reed is a very versatile chess piece, kind of gadgety player who can get the ball in all of these sorts of different ways. We always talk about Christian Watson as being this high ceiling guy, and he obviously hit it in week 12. And Romeo Dobbs is kind of like, I don't know. He's such a fascinating player.
He keeps getting comped to James Jones, and I think that's appropriate.
I just thought that right now too. I was like, it does.
I've seen
sense.
it all over Twitter that he is just James Jones reincarnate, which is, if you want to like go down this rabbit hole of 1, 2 receivers 1, 2, and 3, he would be solidly receiver 3. Like you'd go back and Jordy Nelson / Christian Watson would be 1, Jaden Reed / Craig Jennings would be 2, and James Jones would be 3 / Romeo Dobbs. So I think the only reality in which 1 and 2 are close in like talent level to being you could have wide receiver 1 either week is I think if Jaden Reed continues his absolute explosion onto the scene the rest of the season and Christian Watson continues to do what he's doing. But I want to see more from Christian Watson before I actually expect that to happen, is my thing.
Oh yeah, it honestly, yeah. Because things had been quiet for so long, I'm really not going to give him the benefit of the doubt until he really kind of shows this over a course of more than an 8-game stretch like he did last year. If last week was a launching pad to further success this year, it's still the same sample size of this guy takes a while to really get going, but once he does, it's like watch out kind of guy.
Right, exactly. And I think like that's just the biggest thing is if it takes him a while to get going, then all their people need to step up weeks 1 through 10 or however long it takes for him to get going. So I guess naturally let's get into Jaden Reed's stats for this game against the Lions. 4 catches on 8 targets, 34 receiving yards, and a touchdown, 2 carries and 16 yards. For all intents and purposes, nothing like super splashy from Jaden Reed. By all means,
it was really that drive.
Yeah, just the one drive where he kind of went off and had that touchdown, but still good nonetheless on offense, and he continues to be playing hurt with his chest injury. So good for him for toughing it out, and thank you for toughing it out and playing the entire season. Jaden Reed, or so this season so far. Yeah, just another good game from him and a good building on success for him. The other side of the ball, candidates for a cheese. Jonathan Owens, 12 tackles, 8 of them solo, 1 tackle for a loss, and 1 fumble recovery returned for a touchdown. By far his best game of the year, biggest impact that he's had in the game. I think he's coming into his own. I don't want to, again, this is the same Christian Watson argument, give him the benefit of the doubt before I see him do it for multiple games. He's been playing better, but he's still making some significant mistakes at safety. But that doesn't mean that this game gets downgraded because of games past. He played very well this game. The fumble that was probably an incomplete pass. Well, it wasn't. It was a fumble that he returned for a touchdown. Whenever I see that play happen, it always makes my mind just kind of spin, because I go back to when it happened to Rodgers and Jared Boykin returned it, and it's just such a weird play every time it happens. You don't really know if it's a fumble. People think it's an incomplete pass because in the moment it looks like he threw it, so no one gets on top of it. It's all just a whole thing. So good on him for being aware of the situation. Next up is Rashawn Gary. Just monster of a game, dude. 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 7 tackles, a 91.9 PFF grade. Just an absolutely outstanding game for him. Gets the game ball a year after he had tore his ACL in that building. An emotional Rashawn Gary gets the ball from at the floor, and big old hugs are all around. He did everything I had been talking about on this podcast of wanting him to do. Get home sooner, make impact plays, just go do the things you're meant to be doing and what you're getting paid to do, and to get paid to do at an elite level. And he wreaked havoc all over that Lions game.
Oh yeah.
Last one is Carl Brooks. 2 tackles, 1 solo tackle, 1 forced fumble, and 1 fumble recovery. A 91.5 PFF grade. The highest rated inside defensive lineman during week 12. He's going to be good, dude. I'm really excited to see him develop. Really excited. Devontae Wyatt should be coming along faster than he is, but Carl Brooks is doing what Devontae Wyatt should be doing week in, week out.
Yeah, I mean, he's steadily, it's not just the production, you see it with the level of snaps that he's increasingly getting.
Mm-hmm.
He's an impact player, and you need some line disruptors. It's not that I have been disappointed with Devontae Wyatt, but with so much noise about he's making this next leap,
during training camp.
Yes.
Yeah.
It does feel it's not necessarily letting the air out of a balloon, but it's just slowly but surely. And granted, he's still doing some things well. It's just not as emphatic of a second year kind of bump. Whereas Carl Brooks is really hitting the ground running, and he was kind of a guy that even when he got drafted, that's a guy that mid-major school, I believe, from Bowling Green, so it's not like he's played in a big conference, but he always produced at every year in college, and just fell through down to day 3. So yeah, it's really good to see him make an impact on this team, especially when it's always been about, okay, you have Kenny Clark, this great chess piece, but how do you give more of those disruptors at the line? And Carl Brooks is fitting in there right along very smoothly.
Yes, he is. So we have 6 candidates here, and you said you have 2 that you think you're down to give cheeses to. I'm curious as to know your 2. I think I have 2, but I want to know who your 2 are first.
So my lock for sure is Jordan Love. Clearly,
that's your lock for sure.
Yes.
Okay. I'm curious. Okay, who's your second one?
The first lock, I should say.
Okay.
Second lock, Rashawn Gary.
Okay, that's what was my point. Was that if you had one lock, then we need to have a Rashawn Gary discussion.
Yeah. Um, third, I think you could go either way.
I think I agree with you that it needs to be Jordan Love or Rashawn Gary. Man.
I think I would lean.
Who are you leaning?
See, the thing is like defensive touchdowns are such an aberration.
Mm-hmm.
They don't happen all that often,
Especially on this Packers team.
No, it's why when we were doing this last year during that Vikings game, Darryl Savage had a terrible year, but that game that he just balled out, gets a touchdown and takes it all the way back. That kind of ensures you to get a cheese. But now with this
reformatted
limited cheese board, do you give it to the guy that scores a defensive touchdown and played very well all game long, even with mistakes? Or do you give it to the guy that had not produced to the level that we all expected, but did the things that we have all or were expecting to see him do, and was the leading receiver of the day? I don't know.
It's an interesting discussion because I think you definitely could give it to Christian Watson just based on his importance on that first drive and getting that touchdown. Like, I really think you could be totally solid in an argument to give him that cheese, right? He's the guy that we needed on that drive, and is one of the only players on this team that could make that catch to be able to do that. I'm trying to find Jonathan Owens's stats for the week. I'm curious as to how well he did in coverage.
I can bring that up.
He had 18 targets, 14 receptions, 136 yards, and 3 touchdowns in coverage.
What?
So, is that the year?
Really?
Nope, that is the year. I don't know why, because I clicked on the game.
I was going to say, I don't think he's...
No, I don't know why that did it that way. My apologies.
I see 4 targets for 3 catches, 16 yards, 1 touchdown.
Oh, I hate this, Jordan.
67.1 coverage grade. I'm going to go...
I think... Nope, go ahead.
I might lean Watson.
Fuck. I was going to say Owens.
Let's go Owens. I'm good with Owens.
Yeah, I think it's got to be Jonathan Owens. That his heads up play, recovering that fumble and bringing it back and having the wherewithal to do it, I think changed the course of the game. And I'm more confident in giving it to him based on like that play versus like just generally Christian Watson. Even though Christian Watson had a fantastic game, you want to know what it's going to be? His one messed up route that he ran that made Jaden Reed's throw or touchdown look so difficult. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
So like, I've watched so many I watched QB School with JT O'Sullivan and a bunch of other guys break this down. On Jaden Reed's touchdown, it's supposed to be 3 slants from all of the receivers going the same way, and Christian Watson went the other way and ran his defender right into Jaden Reed, and like that's why that throw was thrown through a window and barely got in there. So not that it's a big deal that he ran the wrong route, but if I'm going to pick something to give him not the cheese, even though he probably deserves it to, that'd be the one thing. When it comes down to margins that small.
Yeah.
All right. That's enough about cheeses. Should we get on to the next game for the Kansas City Chiefs?
Do we want to do that, or do we want to do a little playoff talk? Because
I was going to lead into that with playoff talk, but yeah.
Okay.
I led in with the wrong thing. With that win, the Packers are in the playoff hunt, Jordan. You are pretty steadfastly sure that they're going to make it.
Me?
Yeah, you said today in the GSPN group chat.
I think it's not only that we are in the hunt. You see any corners around? Have you seen them?
Any corners?
Yeah. Do you see any corners? Not position.
I see a few corners around my house, I suppose.
Because if you see that corner right after it, the Packers are standing right there. They turned They turned the corner.
They turned the corner.
That's where
I
I believe we are.
got it. Um, you had me in a hell prison with that, dude. I was lost in the sauce, trying to figure out where you were going with that. I was trying to find what you had said today that you guarantee it, but I'm not going to go back that far. But regardless, you're pretty adamant that they've turned the corner. Packers playoff odds as of this week is 50% going into the game with the Chiefs. That's according to the New York Times' playoff picture odds calculator. If you factor in a win over the Chiefs this Sunday night, those playoff odds rise to 70%. I gotta think for a second. If they lose, drop down to 45%. So a loss doesn't even take them out of the race that much. You had said pre-pod that there is a machination, as if I'm pronouncing that word correctly.
Yes,
Learned a new word today, listeners. That so long as the Packers go 4-2 or 5-1, the biggest game that they have to win is the Vikings game coming up. I think in 3 weeks.
Week 17.
Weeks. Oh, so it is the second to last game. Yeah, because it's New Year's Eve, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, because
I'm sorry, not
play the.
Yeah. Yes, because Christmas Eve they play the Panthers. New Year's Eve they play the Vikings. So, I mean, we talked about it. We could probably eat crow a whole lot on this pod if they make it. Talking about how they're a bad team. We're playing for a good draft pick, and it sure as hell looked like it earlier in the season. But I mean, kudos to them. They've fought back, and due to the NFC just being not good this year, the Packers could very well sneak in as that 6th or 7th playoff team at 9-8 or 10-6, or well, not 10-6. Have to win. I think 10-6, but or I'm sorry, 11-6. So I don't know. Like, I'm not optimistic that they're going to make it because I don't want to get my hopes up that what we've seen against the Chargers and Lions is who they are now, especially given injuries, as well as that win against the Chargers probably should have been a win in the first place. And I'm curious as to if they can replicate the intensity they play with against the Lions. Because, like, if they had actually, like, really won that Chargers game, rather than the Chargers had lost it, I'd be more confident. But the Mike Williams drop at the end of the game, the
Quentin Johnson.
Yep, my apologies. The Quentin Johnson drop at the end of the game, the Keenan Allen drop touchdown, the other Keenan Allen drop touchdown, the drop on the first drive for them, like, there was a lot of factors going against Justin Herbert going out and winning that game for them. And so I'm more curious as to how that plays out the rest of the year. That's the thing, is that we don't play good teams the rest of the year besides the Chiefs and the Vikings with Josh Dobbs or whoever they're going to...
Darren Hall.
Yeah, or whoever they're going to start. Nick Mullins, I think, is maybe also there.
I think he's in the mix if he's healthy.
So there is a chance that they just beat up on these mid to low tier teams and make a playoff push. But I don't want to give the whole team the benefit of the doubt that they won't have slip-ups that made that 4-game losing streak abysmal to go through. Does that make sense?
Yes, I think everything that you're saying is valid because, weirdly enough, we have arrived to the place that we all expected to be in. It's just the fact that they were 2-6, 2-5,
or 2-5, yeah,
before winning 3 of their last 4.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that the pattern that they have fallen into is playing these games, close games. Offense hasn't been working. Or clicking on all cylinders the majority of every game this year, and then you find yourself in a 1-score game. You're playing for the game late. That kind of rhythm whereas the Lions game is the outlier.
Mm-hmm.
And do I expect them to play like that all the time? No, I frankly I think that I would be shocked if we see another level of complete performance like that or kind of definitive way of winning. However, I do think that they have built up enough kind of. We are seeing strides offensively. Whether we think the defense is doing what they're doing to their potential, even with all the injuries that they've had, and granted that they traded their most healthy corner um, midway through the year. Their best corner
Mm-hmm.
has been hurt for increasingly this year.
Mm-hmm.
It's still working
Yeah.
by the grace of Joe Barry. But I do think we're starting to see the consistency that we have really just tried to cling to. And yeah, again, the benefit of the doubt still has to be earned on whether they can how they respond the rest of the way is going to be very indicative of how they build this team towards the future. But the bigger questions are starting to get answered, at least with Jordan Love, at least with the wide receiving core and how we talked about, they don't have a veteran wide receiver. They didn't give Jordan Love the support that he needed to get. It's just the symbiosis between that, and then the offensive line starts playing better. They start getting healthier. Defense starts, at least in Lions game, they start literally disrupting, getting after the quarterback and making game changing plays that way. I think that's why I'm leaning towards. And granted, too, like again, we have talked about this schedule being super easy. It's getting easier by the day based on the teams that are left standing. The Carolina Panthers just fired their coach.
Yeah.
The Giants are a tire fire. Their starting quarterback right now might actually be better than the quarterback that they gave a lot of money to.
Yeah.
Not hyperbole.
No, it's not hyperbole at all. Like Tommy Field played well. What was that last Sunday? They didn't play on Thanksgiving. No, they didn't.
No, thank God.
Yeah. So, but no, the Giants are playing fine, but they're kind of a big question mark. I think you put it pretty plainly that as the days go by, they are getting an easier schedule. I just am fearful that the mental errors and the penalties and the lack of execution on offense is here to stay. Like it's a lot of the penalties and the mental execution part of it. Like you at the end of the day, you still have a rookie in Jaden Reed, second year guys in Christian Watson, Romeo Dobbs, Aaron Jones hasn't been around. Like it's AJ Dillon might play. He was back at practice today on Thursday. So the running back room is still a big question mark. There's just a lot of question marks on offense that I'm concerned about. The defense I can get on board with playing as long as they play well and play like they have played the last few weeks, right? Mm-hmm. But I think it's just the offense is my biggest question mark, and how much can we actually rely on the down roster guys in the specialists parts on offense to really continue to make big impacts, like Dontayvion Wicks, Malik Heath, Jaden Reed, Tucker Kraft are all going to need to step up in on offense for this team to make a push. And I think like their 3 away games are, or I guess the Vikings game in Minnesota is always hard. It's always hard to go into US Bank and win. Like it's hard. Yeah. I don't think Rodgers did it a whole bunch. Like I remember quite a number of losses for Rodgers at US Bank. But then they have the benefit of playing 3 games at home and 3 games away. They play at home against the Chiefs, the Bucks, and the Bears in the season, and then they're away at MetLife, and then they're away at Carolina, Minnesota. So knock on every bit of wood you see around your life for the next month, or 2 weeks, to make sure that MetLife doesn't claim another Achilles, because it's been doing it.
Yeah.
So if we can get out of MetLife alive and uninjured, I'd be very happy. But at the end of the day, I'm just skeptical that it's here to stay. I will very happy eat crow if they make the playoffs and say that they finally turned it around and they got their legs under them and played well. But they've learned how to, I think, win close games, or maybe not have learned. They're still kind of getting there, but they're playing better in close games, I should say. So,
I believe the Packers are 2-5 since
U.S. Bank got built.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's a hard place to play. It just is. Mm-hmm. And Vikings fans get up for the Packers game every time because they hate the Packers, and justifiably so.
Yes.
So, listen, I'll be ecstatic if they make the playoffs. I think it'd be a really good experience for a lot of the players to make the playoffs on this team, specifically Jordan Love and a lot of the specialists. But all the young guys seeing that they can do this and they can win this way would be great for this team. And I think it would say a lot about how last year went and how it ended if they can do it again this year, but this time get in.
That's the thing, is that it's a much more enjoyable experience being in the stretch of, it doesn't feel like they were trying to save their season last year.
Mm-hmm.
Or, sorry, it felt like last year they were trying to save their season based on how far they had fallen. This year, it's like, it's more understandable why the Packers fell in the hole. And then now they're digging themselves out of it, and it's a lot more refreshing and reassuring to see that not everything has gone against their way, and that there is something being built right now.
Yeah, it's all about expectations, and so I expect them to play well down this stretch, but I don't expect them to play well enough to make it in at this point. If they come out on Sunday and beat the Chiefs, like, I'll buy in. I'll really buy into them making it and possibly winning a game. Yeah. But for now, hesitantly optimistic. So, with that being said, let's get into that Chiefs-Packers preview coming up this Sunday night on Sunday Night Football. I think this is the first game this year, Jordan, you can correct me if I'm wrong, in which the Packers have a losing record against a team lifetime. Packers are 4-8-1 lifetime against the Chiefs. I feel like the entire season I haven't seen like a time in which they've had a losing record against a team. It might be the Steelers would be the other one, but I think that one might have even been close.
It was close.
But yeah, 4-8-1, but 1-0 in the playoffs as the Packers beat the Chiefs 35-10 in the first Super Bowl. So we got that big W over them. The Chiefs are 3-1-1 against Packers at Lambeau. The last time the Chiefs came to Lambeau was in 2015 when Kansas City lost to the Packers 38-28 that season. Chiefs are 8-3. What do you say? Yeah, they're
only lost at Lambeau.
Yep. The Chiefs are 8-3 on the season, first in the AFC West, and have a plus 75 point differential. Packers are 5-6, third in the NFC North with a plus 7 point differential. That point differential is either at 0 or just above Jordan. Like it's been a crazy ride of that point differential, just kind of hovering around that 0 mark all year long. So, with that being said, let's get into the injury report a little bit with this. It is once again quite lengthy for the Packers. It is Thursday as we're recording this, so limited participants in practice are Jair, still with his shoulder injury, Devondre Campbell with his neck injury, Kenny Clark with his shoulder injury, Josiah DeGuara with his hip injury. AJ Dillon was upgraded from Wednesday to Thursday to a limited participant with his groin injury. Rudy Ford got a new injury designation on this Thursday one with a bicep and now a groin injury, but he was limited in practice. Rashawn Gary was limited, but I think that's his shoulder, so that's, I think, new, maybe, from a couple weeks ago. Or I guess it's not new, but from a couple weeks ago. But whenever it was. Aaron Jones did not participate. Keyshawn Nixon was a full participant with a wrist injury. No Jaden Reed yet this week, but it came out that he has been battling through this chest injury for a few weeks now, and that he's been playing through the pain and doesn't anticipate treating it any different this week than he had in previous weeks, so that's encouraging to hear. Robert Rochelle was a limited participant in practice on Wednesday with a calf injury. He did not participate in practice on Thursday. Darnell Savages was a full participant in practice with his calf injury. He is in the 21-day practice window. I don't know if I've seen any whispers about him coming off of it this week, but I would be encouraged if he would be. Eric Stokes was limited with his hamstring. He is also in the 21-day window. Dontayvion Wicks has a knee injury, and he is limited in practice. And Devontae White has a heel injury. He was a full participant in practice as well. Breath. For the Chiefs, Nick Bolton, their linebacker, has a wrist injury. He is currently in the 21-day practice window. He was limited both days. Brian Cook, a safety, has a bicep injury. He was a full participant. The only other limited participant was Jarek McKinnon. He was upgraded from a DMP to a limited participant on Thursday with a groin injury. Their entire receiving room was on the injury report, but they're all practicing. Kadarius Toney, Rashee Rice, and Sky Moore, respectively, with an ankle hip injury for Toney, and then a foot injury for Rashee Rice, and a knee injury for Sky Moore. All full participants. And then Donovan Smith, their tackle, practiced, as well as L'Jarius Sneed, their cornerback, did with a knee injury as well. So a bit of an injury report for the Chiefs, but mostly optimistic for them. The only difference being that they're missing 2 guys limited, while the Packers have a bunch that are limited. So that's the main thing. So hopefully we can get healthy this week and just kind of get away from these literally breathtaking injury reports. So let's get into it. Let's start with I guess the Packers offense and the Kansas City defense. Kansas City has allowed the second fewest points all season long, only behind the 49ers, and they're the least penalized defensive unit in the game, or I guess rather in the NFL. But the most points the Chiefs have allowed this year is 21, which they give up to both the Eagles and the Lions, in which they lost both those games as well. So this defense, I think, is better than it was in years past. Like, I think in years past it was good. They had like talent between Frank Clark and company out there.
Chris Jones.
Right. And they had talent, but that like the team was carried by the offense, right? It was Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, insert running back here at times, that really kept this team afloat and has made them 2-time Super Bowl champions now. But I think that's sort of flip-flopped, as we'll get into it in a little bit. That the offense isn't that good, but this defense, man, it's really good. Like they're like you said in our notes, only having allowed 21 points at most this season is an incredible achievement. Like that, it just is. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, I think I would go one step further. I think this is probably the best defense the Chiefs have ever had.
Yeah,
since Mahomes has become
in the Mahomes era, yeah.
In the Mahomes era, like they have legitimate playmakers. How we talked about the Chiefs, like probably would have been basically, well, we didn't have a podcast at the time, but the last time the Packers played the Chiefs, and you're thinking, oh, this great showdown between Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes gets disrupted by COVID and Jordan Love making his first NFL start, and Aaron Rodgers becoming an interesting character ever since then.
Mm-hmm.
I do think like how we talked about, or how I viewed the Chiefs defense then, just doesn't apply anymore. Like it is so different to. They have Chris Jones. I know there was obviously the holdout right after week 1 too, because they didn't remedy that until after the fact. But you have Chris Jones, you have guys that can make plays on the line. Nick Bolton, if he does play this week, it's not guaranteed yet, but he was the guy we saw him in the Super Bowl make big plays. They have guys that can make plays from that, second level. Then like the cornerbacks, like L'Jarius Sneed is a really good cornerback.
Mm-hmm.
Going to be a problem for Christian Watson in particular, as we'll get into. But Trent McDuffie has been like really hailed as like he's big difference maker.
He's a second-year guy currently, just based on grade on PFF. He's the sixth best graded cornerback in the NFL.
Mhm.
Really kind of does it all when it comes to coverage. He has 13 total pressures this season, and he has 2 sacks, 6 hits on QBs. He's had 5 forced fumbles. He's only allowed 1 touchdown, and in his 35 receptions on 50 targets, he's only given up 375 yards. So like he's just playing really, really well for this Chiefs defense, and like you said, being hailed as a difference maker for them and a stud outside.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think just the pass rush between I want to say now I'm excuse me, Chris Jones and his pass rush is just I'm not gonna say it can be a problem, but like he's just a good player, dude. That's all there is to it. Like he's just good, and so seeing how this line handles that pass rush is going to be like really important because I think the line played fine against Aiden Hutchinson and the rest of that Detroit Lions, I guess front. But when I listened to the Athletic Pod this week with Chase Daniels and I forget the actual host of it. My apologies, but
Robert Mays.
yes, with Robert Mays, and I think why it works so well against Aiden Hutchinson is they got 4 hands on him. Like they always sent 2 guys to his side to make sure that he couldn't really dominate one side of the ball. And so if they can
How do you do that with a guy that's up front though, or in the middle?
I think you just throw the running backs at him. Just like or double team them and have guys switch on the outside. Like it's a good question. Like for sure a good question. But
Yeah, I
like
mean, Chiefs had the fourth most sacks this year. Um, and I think for me to frame this defense is that, and it's going to be talked about a lot. Jordan Love's first at a full start came against the Chiefs,
yeah.
and he struggled. And there are a lot of reasons why that was. Ultimately, it was a 13-7 loss for the Packers. It wasn't like the Chiefs, played lights out or anything like that. But that defense really hounded, it ratcheted up the pressure for Jordan Love. Those core tenets have not changed, even as the defenses got better.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's like Jordan Love has increasingly seen more pressures go his way. He's getting more comfortable with that in mind. But it, I don't know, it's weird. I guess maybe the closest kind of disruptor kind of guy like that we've seen this year against the Packers offensive line is Aaron Donald.
Mm-hmm.
And even with a 20-3 win, Aaron Donald really made his imprint on that game. Like he
Yeah.
did force Jordan Love to bounce outside of the pocket a lot more than he
Yeah. Two,
had been.
2 pressures and a stack in that game. According to PFF's pressures stats, but
So I think I don't know. That's where this Chiefs defense can really. They have the kind of the big piece in the middle, obviously, but then with everything else intact, of like, okay, we're gonna send 5 or more guys depending on what the alignment is. We're gonna try to get at you to force you to make quick throws, hit guys when they're not expecting it. And I think for me, I mean, it's very easy to just be like, that's going to be the game.
right.
But it is going to be the game because of just like, we've seen the formula for Jordan Love to get better and better and better. And then when you see a team that can actually do the things well in terms of, we saw a couple weeks ago, the Chargers, a very good, at least in terms of their high in sacks, because they had just these, outpourings for weeks earlier in the year. But the Chiefs have just been consistently really just playing tight, stingy defense that can suppress teams in what they do best kind of way. That was my long-winded answer.
No, but I definitely agree with you. I think it's going to be important to see how Josh Myers plays this game. Like,
Yes.
he's been playing the best football of his career for a few weeks now, according to the Packers. But if he can hold his own against Chris Jones, and if they send double teams to Chris Jones's way to kind of nullify that pass rush, then yeah, I think there's an opportunity to try and really negate him and any sort of impact. But that's a lot to ask. That's a lot to ask, frankly. But like, I think it's a good point that with the Chiefs defense having only allowed 21 points all year long, it's crazy to think about some of the teams like they've went against. They went against the Chargers. They went against obviously the Lions and the Eagles. The Vikings, I believe, when Kirk Cousins was still active.
Yes.
And so in those games, to having the most points allowed be 21, like that's good. Like the Chargers offense is good, it's high flying. That's a division opponent that's a little bit harder game, but the Lions, the Chiefs lost that game opening night, and they showed that they were good. And it's, again, I think that's just a testament to where that offense has kind of come since the loss of Tyreek Hill and the loss of a fairly decent wide receiver room outside of Travis Kelce. But this team has been totally changed its makeup and what its strong suit really is. Like I think this is what all those years of what we wished Rodgers could do during like after the Super Bowl to basically 2018 is have a dominant offense to go with your superstar quarterback, even if you have to throw in a couple of not the best like specialists in there. You know what I mean? And so they've built up a good team around Patrick Mahomes on the defensive side of the ball, and I think they're just still good in general. Like this will be a tough game for sure for Jordan Love in the offense, and I think getting into that, it's gonna have to be a lot of, I don't want to say trickery, but it's gonna have to be a lot of, I guess trickery is the wrong word to even suggest. I think they just have to keep it simple. Get stuff over the middle like you've been doing the last few weeks. Take the sure throws. You don't need to go deep all the time, but they've been taking deep shots more and more. I think Jordan Love has more deep completions of 20 yards or more than Patrick Mahomes does this year.
I believe it.
I'm pretty sure I've seen that stat a few times already this week. But just keep it simple. Keep it over the middle and keep it sort of as a dink and dunk offense in between throws of 10 to 15 yards and deep bombs. I think that's what's really going to have it come down to, because I'm not really expecting the rush defense or the rush offense to have any sort of impact this week for the Packers, solely because Aaron Jones is questionable, AJ Dillon is also questionable. So who is trotting out there for the Packers at running back is going to be, I'm not going to say moot, but I'm not putting any stake into it as we go into the game.
Yeah, I think it's made a lot harder that Aaron Jones is obviously not going to play because we're getting in the rhythm of, okay, Jordan Love is the offense by default. This Chiefs defense has not allowed a 300-yard passing game this year.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tough trying. We talked about that, the establishing the run, trying to get that balance and how that all works, and to kind of uplift Jordan Love. Now it's reversed where Jordan Love is the engine, and you're just like anything necessary from the run game, whether it's AJ Dillon or whoever.
I mean, even Jaden Reed.
Jaden Reed, yeah. Honestly, that's the thing, is that we're at the Jaden Reed level. Patrick Taylor maybe will make some plays too, but like,
right.
For me, it's just if you could get anything from the run game, if you could kind of not make it all on Jordan Love's shoulders, who looks equal or more willing to kind of take on that challenge, because obviously that's what it is. I think it's going to be really interesting how this game shakes out and what kind of bends first, because it will define we saw it last week with the Lions game of just like if you just make a great opening start, it changes everything and what can be possible for this Packers team in particular.
When you say what bends, what do you mean? Like, I guess what aspects of bending are you conflating there?
I think if it's the defense, if it's the Chiefs defense really kind of putting their foot down and sending a message right away that you're not going to get everything that you want today,
Right.
kind of thing, or it's the Packers. I wonder how aggressive they'll be in terms of testing this Chiefs defense. Yeah, I mean, there was like, I know we didn't talk about much on the Lions preview pod and stuff like that, and I know you felt bad personally about it, but it was just because of the fact that the third of the team was on the injury report.
Right.
But there were, Malcolm and Tyler talked about that there were signs of the Lions defense not being what it was after a very improved start, especially considering how we thought about the Lions defense last year.
Right.
This is a totally different animal. We're talking
Oh
about
yeah.
this arguably the second best defense in the league, I would say.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, I think it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough, and I think there's real reason for optimism if the offense comes out and performs. Like there's real reason for optimism. Um, I think we ought to go back to that first start against the Chiefs for Jordan Love just to revisit where this has sort of come from. Uh, 19 for 34, 190 yards, and one TD and one interception in the 13-7 loss. I believe it was again a Sunday night game. It was either Sunday or Thursday. I forget which, but I
It
know.
was a late Sunday afternoon game.
Oh, it was the 3:30.
Yep.
Got it. Okay. I remember it being dark out for most of it. Was my thing. But in that time, it was kind of up in the air of what Jordan Love would be, and I think what we saw in that game was what we saw earlier this year, in the losing streak. So glad to see that that has kind of went away for the time being. Hopefully, Jordan Love's like motivated to do something more against this team than he did at that time, because that was a not great performance, less than or just over a shade of 50% for his completion percentage, and he didn't look all that good in that game, frankly. Like he just didn't. And so at home, this is his time to go out and prove him wrong again. So we'll see. We'll see. Anything else for the offense for the Packers, the defense for the Chiefs? We talk about Christian Watson a little bit before we get out of here. Not get out of here, but talk about the other side of the ball.
I think for me, I'm eager to see if Christian Watson kind of puts it all together. And the Chiefs like premier or not premier, but like I would say their kind of shadow guy, mm Sneed. He has been really good this year.
Right.
He kind of plays a high risk, high reward game.
Sounds
Most
like
penalized.
sounds like a guy
What?
we know. Sounds like a guy we know, Jair
Oh
Alexander.
yeah. Oh, yes. Most penalized cornerback in the league. He has 14 penalties on the year, which is kind of astounding. But opposing quarterbacks have 56.5 passer rating when targeting Sneed this year. He hasn't allowed a touchdown
Wow.
on 72 targets, 37 receptions,
Wow.
400 passing yards per Pro Football Reference. Yeah, not a guy that I would particularly like seeing Christian Watson match up against, but
They can go with
about,
their best play though. If he's the most
true.
penalized corner in the league,
Get that DPI.
get that DPI going. Frankly,
I just think it's going to be really. I mean, the biggest thing increasingly. I mean, right before that Lions game, it's about winning your matchup. It's winning your
yeah,
one-on-ones kind of thing. And Christian Watson showed last week that that was not a problem for him.
no,
Now it's getting up against a stiffer competition and seeing how that goes for him. I know we're still in that wait and see mode of it can go really either way. It's you're gonna have a game like that last week, or you're gonna be 2 catches, 23 yards, and the offense is not gonna flow through you as much as we thought, and it's hard to play in this high load kind of game, high risk, high reward game. but that is where Christian Watson firmly sits.
Yeah, and if we get a high game, I think this game goes quite well. If we get a low game, I think it'll be kind of a slog. I don't want to say a slog, but it'll be tougher than I think we want it to be if Christian Watson isn't performing at a level at which he was for the Detroit game. Because with no Luke Musgrave, with Dontavion Wicks and Jaden Reed kind of playing hurt as they are, if we can't really get the production out of wide receiver one like you want to from Christian Watson in a game like this, against cornerbacks like this, against a defense like this, it just makes the game hard. When you go against elite defenses like this, you just need everybody to be performing at the top of their game in order to have a chance to win, especially as a young team. And so I really would like them to see everybody at the peak of their performance like they were on Thanksgiving against the Lions, and really just come out and show some high level performance. And even then, like, if they go out and they have like 250 yards passing, a touchdown or two from a receiver and a couple touchdowns, or like a touchdown from a running back, and they lose something like, I don't know, like 31-20, I won't be sad. Like, I think that's a valiant effort against a team like this. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I'm not expecting to win, as we'll talk about with score predictions later, but I think if they look good, it's a good indication of how the rest of the season will go for that playoff push. And if they can play really well against the Chiefs, I think you're doing the same thing you're doing against for what they did against the Lions, and that showing everybody on this team and showing all 53 guys that, hey, we have a chance to really do something special for this season and build success towards the playoffs and towards everyone's development. Like Chase Daniel said on that podcast today, that they've started building on success, which was what they weren't doing all season long until this recent. I would honestly, since the Rams game, lost the Steelers game, which was tough, but they should have won the Steelers game, frankly. And if they do, they're on a 4-game winning streak. Like they've been playing really well.
Yes.
So should go the other side of the ball.
Yeah.
Chiefs offense is kind of just meh. It's a little weird.
It's really weird.
It's just
it is good, but it's not like, oh my God, this is terrifying. It's going to wake me up in the middle of the night.
No, it's not what it used to be. Like in the time of Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, briefly Juju Smith-Schuster. Who was their wide receiver 2 before it was MVS? Do you remember?
I mean, it's like McCole Hardman, Demarcus Robinson kind of was in there. And so another guy too, I think.
There was another guy. I cannot think of who it is either. But
when we look at the 2020 Super Bowl roster, that jog my memory.
But the point being is that
Sammy Watkins was on that team.
Yep, I remember. Yep. The point being is that now it's wide receiver 1, like Rashee Rice, or it was supposed to be Kadarius Toney coming into the year. Sky Moore was supposed to be something too. Like, there was just a few different options of what they were supposed to be doing, and it just, outside of Travis Kelce, it's been tough for them. Like, I'm trying to bring up their stats here. I would bet that Travis Kelce is the leading receiver. He is at 732 yards. For receiving, it's Rashee Rice, Justin Watson, and MVS. And so, like, Rashee Rice has been really good this year. It's been a really good rookie for them. But yeah, you look at this roster of receivers, and it's not inspiring. It's Justin Watson, MVS, Sky Moore, and Kadarius Toney, and then McCall Hardman Jr. is still on the team. So was Clyde Edwards-Helaire, by the way.
Yeah, Hardman came back from being on the Jets.
Mm-hmm. And so
it's all first year, second year guys that are
same like the Packers have. And so it's more of a learning curve for them and just trying to figure out how they're doing it going forward. But none of it really matters when you have a guy like Travis Kelce for Mahomes to throw to. Like, he's by far the best tight end in the league, one of the top tight ends all time. Like, he's just an absolute stud at that position and a real threat. 732 yards this year, 5 touchdowns, 70 receptions. Like, it's just, that's even with missing a game too. Just by far and wide the best player that Mahomes can throw to on that offense. So it's going to be tough, I think, for the Packers defense to really get any sort of momentum on him. But if they can figure out somehow, some way, a way to stop Travis Kelce, I think they have the ability to stop the other guys too.
Yes.
I want to say
It's
so. I want to say before because I had a thought and my brain was mush and I was going to let it go. The Packers aren't good at stopping tight ends.
that is where I was going to
Okay, go for it. Sorry, that was me.
we saw no, it's fine. We saw, like, to me, the comparable here, and he's a really good tight end. He's not in Kelsey's level. No, very few are of really anybody else in the league. I don't even know who would be two.
Uh,
I'm probably missing
Mark Andrews.
Yeah, but he's starting to get banged up.
Mark Andrews, when healthy, is two. I'm trying to think of the other guys. T.J. Hawkinson is two. T.J. Hawkinson's two.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. T.J. Hawkinson lit this Packers defense up.
Yeah.
Week 8. Now we're talking about Travis Kelce. Yes, he's on the older side. He's had some durability issues. He missed a game this year, but, like, it does not matter. Like, he is so. They have relied on him even more this year, especially as the kind of Rashee Rices of the world have tried to figure everything out.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. But I think as much as he is the engine to their offense, and if you take him away, it's kind of like, we'll see how that kind of goes for everybody else. Still taking him away or limiting him to what he's done throughout his entire career and that he's kept up into this year, it's still like that. It just takes a lot. It takes a lot out of this entire secondary, the linebacker core. Quay Walker is obviously going to be the kind of guy to watch for him in this regard, but, like, how we talked about, Rasul Douglas facing against Cole Kmet. Trying to think of another. I'm sure he probably lined up against CJ Hawkinson, did not play all that well. Like, he had shown or had played snaps again in coverage against tight ends. And yes, sometimes it works out, sometimes it fails miserably. But it's just about having these options to kind of stop these guys in terms of whether it's red zone targets or just getting down the field. And with a limited secondary in so many different ways now, it just gets a lot harder to throw different kind of. It's like covering a Kevin Durant and having different defensive wings, stoppers, whatever, to really hold him down as much as you can.
Right.
And I think that's, for me, where it's going to be really hard for this team to not stop, or to stop Travis Kelce in a very real way.
Right. But it's like, if you think about the this year and the tight ends they've went up against, right? Like, Jonnu Smith for the Falcons kind of, I don't want to say really tore them apart, but he didn't, like, have a bad game. I'm going through the stats. I'm not going to, like, go through them bit by bit, but he had a good game. Cole Kmet had a fine game for the Bears. Thinking about, like, Sam Laporta. Like, Sam Laporta had 2 good games against this Packers defense. The Chargers had 2 tight ends, I believe, score against them. I think Gerald Everett and that Stone Smart guy both had scored touchdowns against the Packers. Like, TJ Hawkinson, as you mentioned, they just have a tough time covering big tight ends because they don't have any big guys back there to really go pound for pound with them, or like big guys in coverage that can do it. Like, Preston can't cover a big tight end in coverage, neither can Devondre or Quay for that matter. And so you just need a physical DB or double covering guys to really stop these big tight ends like Travis Kelce. And they just don't have that right now as this team is currently constructed. And so I think that'll just be the biggest thing, is that can they figure out a way to scheme a defense to ensure that Travis Kelce isn't the one that beats them. I'm fine if they throw 3 touchdowns to Rashee Rice or Sky Moore or Justin Watson or MVS or whoever, because then it's those guys that have a lesser chance of beating you. But if it comes out and Travis Kelce goes for 150, 2 TDs, and it's a blowout, then it's just like, okay, understandably, it's hard to cover Travis Kelce, but I'd be disappointed that that's how we lost because we've had a longer time than usual to prep for this game, and figuring out a way to stop the most dynamic part of that offense is obviously priority number one.
Yeah, it's interesting that you lean that way because I think I would, I expect Travis Kelce to wreak havoc. And if you kind of play it in a way of, we know he's going to get his, it's a matter of the other guys not going off. Like Rashee Rice, I mean, we kind of segue into him,
Yeah.
but he had a breakout game last week.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, it was against the Raiders, and they did not start Marcus Peters, who they subsequently waived, whatever that means, or
Yeah.
whatever is going on with that. Um, I do think I would live with Travis Kelce having a performance like you mentioned, rather than the guys that we don't expect going off. Be like, oh, of course, MVS scores in Lambeau, it is return back to Green Bay and all
Right.
that stuff. I don't know. That's just my perspective, but either way, it's obviously it's not good if you don't win.
I think
either way that you do that.
I think my reasoning comes from, like, you have to protect against Travis Kelce. You just have to. And
Yeah.
if they don't, then it's just going to be marching down the field all day long with slants over the middle. Like, that's just, they'll just pick, but Mahomes will just pick the defense apart with his best buddy Travis Kelce. But if Travis Kelce's not open, I have more confidence in the outside guys covering the receivers that I mentioned and having success versus them, to a point that if they are losing because of it, I'm more attributing that to Mahomes than the other guys and his ability to be a great quarterback. You know what does that make sense? Or am I?
I do think it makes sense.
Because, like,
again,
I just think that if the game ends and we'll say it's, for easy math's sake, like 28-20, and the Packers lose and Kelce has a touchdown, they give up a rushing touchdown to Pacheco, but then like 2 to like Justin Watson, like, that's probably a poor performance on one of the cornerbacks' like assignments. But I think elevating Justin Watson to the ability of having 2 touchdowns and some yards is more of a Mahomes factor than it is a Justin Watson factor. And I think that's just what you have to live with when you go against the best quarterback in the NFL. Like, that's just the biggest thing, is that we haven't talked about Mahomes at all, and we don't have it on there, but like, Patrick Mahomes is good, and he's the best quarterback in the game, and he's the reason the Chiefs are 8-3, despite the defense not allowing more than 21 points this season. Like, they still have to score points.
His worst is still
the best.
30,
like
the best for 30 other quarterbacks, not named Jordan Love.
Right.
Kidding.
Right, and he just has that ability to take over a game at literally any point and make sure that the Chiefs are in it throughout the entire game. Like, I can't remember a time where I've seen Patrick Mahomes just look lost in a game. Like, I think maybe that 2020 Super Bowl when the Buccaneers just had their number.
Oh,
but
geez.
golly, if that's the only game when you had to go against that elite defense that the Buccaneers had that year, that he'll find a way. Is kind of my point. You're not going to be able to stop the Chiefs from scoring points. So if you can stop them from scoring points in the most efficient ways that they are usually able to do that, which is through the air to Travis Kelce, then I think you're playing good defense. You just can't stop him at all costs. Like, you just can't stop him fully. And whether the touchdown goes to Rashee Rice, Sky Moore, Pacheco, Tony, or Justin Watson, like, I'm fine with losing to that. It'd be really annoying to just lose to the most obvious solution, I guess, is my point of view.
Interesting, because I just don't. It's like you expect to get gassed by that. Or, I mean, we're talking about Kelce. Mahomes could easily put this game on its head by getting elusive in the pocket, and the Packers, as much as, like, last week was really successful at getting home at the quarterback,
Yeah.
they might just not finish those plays. And we know how they struggle with, you know, scrambly quarterbacks that can get outside of the pocket, and if everybody else is in coverage, they're going to break break free for a good, gain kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's the danger. The threat of Mahomes is not just, even if he's not playing his best ball this year, or he doesn't have the most sure-handed wide receiver core, um, beyond Travis Kelce, he still can break games open with just his just ability to read, make plays that no other quarterback in the league can make, and just do it in all sorts of different ways. And I think too, like we think of him as this flashy quarterback, rightfully so, because he's just a freak athlete in terms of just like making throws that both veer on Favreisms, but just kind of like it's this processing ability that he has.
Mm-hmm.
But winning games that are not necessarily sexy or like offensive explosions, or the kind of these gritty games that the Chiefs have kind of steadily found themselves winning this year, that's not nothing. Like that is whatever invaluable thing that you want to say about the heart of a champion or all these different cliches. They do exist because they can win in so many different ways. And
Yeah.
as we've talked about plenty with the Packers, it's like learning how to win is a skill.
Mm-hmm.
It very much is a skill.
And when you have a guy like Patrick Mahomes who has led so many game-winning touchdowns and so many drives in 30 seconds to go down and kick a field goal, like it's just hard to win against this team when you have a guy like that on their side. It just is.
Yeah.
So, watch out for Isaiah Pacheco. That dude runs hard. Like I think there's going to be a tough time that it's gonna be tough for them to stop him. I think like he's a hard runner, and if they can have another performance against the rushing game like they had against the Lions, I think that's very good for them. But
Mhm.
again, this game lives and dies with how Patrick Mahomes plays, and it's probably going to be pretty good.
Yeah.
So, anything else? I think we kind of covered it all.
I think we go players to watch.
Players to watch. I'll let you go first,
Um, hmm.
unless you don't want to.
There's just a lot of options.
There are
A
a lot of
lot of more
options.
options. I'm gonna go Kelsey.
That makes sense. That's
I
that's
just
a
think if
pretty
he's
legit one to
yeah,
go with.
if he is everything that he has been this year, it's gonna be hard stopping him. It's gonna be hard stopping the Chiefs. It's gonna be hard stopping or matching their level of offensive output, because they, as much as they have lagged compared to the standard that they've set, they can still win the shootout kind of games, um, in a very real way. So I'm Kelsey for me.
I think I'm gonna go Chris Jones. Like how he is able to put his imprint on this game, I think dictates how well Jordan Love can stand in the pocket and make throws that he was making all of the last week against the Lions. So we'll see what that looks like come Sunday. Because if Chris Jones is disrupting the pocket a whole lot, I think it's going to be pretty bad for the Packers. But if he is being held in check and Jordan Love has the ability to step up and throw, then go for it. Then I think they have not a good chance, but a decent chance to be in this game and come and maybe get out of there with a win. My Packer is going to be Christian Watson. Like I just
Ooh.
really want him to see. I really want to see him put together back-to-back good performances, because if he doesn't, then it's just like, okay, then maybe that was just a flash in the pan for him, and it's not something we can rely on week to week. I'd like it to be, I really would, but if it's not, then it's just tough. So, and like I said earlier, I think they need him. I think they're going to need the best parts of every single guy on this team to have a chance to win this game.
My Packer to watch is really hard. I really just want to go with the obvious of Jordan Love, just because I think The narrative is there, the storyline is there, and obviously he's just been a lot better over the last couple of weeks. I'm gonna go Jaden Reed.
Okay.
I think if this offense can get going in ways that they get him the ball, they do jet sweeps, they do the kind of Jaden Reed things that they have done over the last couple of weeks, that would really relieve me in seeing the offense not just be so reliant on Jordan Love just making throws, making the right throws at the right times.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I just don't think Aiden Jones is going to make much of an effect this year or this game.
Right.
So yeah, just getting their most dynamic wide receiver the ball in different ways would just be very helpful for me and Jaden Reed.
Some might say it's a plus.
I would agree.
Score predictions. I'm going to go Chiefs 34, Packers 23. I'm optimistic they can score some points, but I think that the Chiefs are just. I think Patrick Mahomes and company is just going to have too much fun in this game.
Chiefs 27, Packers 23.
Do you think they lose at the end?
I think they will try to win the game and they will fall short like they had
Against the
in
Steelers?
Pittsburgh. Yeah.
So you think they have a chance to win it, but ultimately come up short?
Yeah, or I mean, I just want to see a one score game. I just want to see them just play close.
Yeah, that works. All right. That does it for us, folks. Time to get into some promotions for the GSPN network and our plans for the upcoming episodes. This coming Sunday, obviously, is the Packers game, 7:30 on Sunday Night Football. Coincidentally, that episode is our 100th episode. So, claps all around, woot, woot, woot. We are going to be going live after that episode, win, lose, draw, any of that sort of stuff, to recap the game and just have a good old time over there. So please join us for that live pod on Sunday. Check out all things gspn.info or gspn@gspn.info. You can find links to the Discord, links out to all the other pods, including Eurostep 1 and 6, Cruising for a Bruising, and Make Time for This. Speaking of the Bucks, you can go check out their latest episode with... I'm trying to think of who came out last with the Heat game. Was that Ty and Rohan? Right?
It was me and Ty.
You and Ty. I know you and Ty recorded an episode. I didn't know which one in order it was. So,
Me.
so go check out Jordan talking with Ty on the Bucks clinching the first seed in the East in the in-season tournament. So, you said something. What'd you say? Ist. Yeah, Ist. I'm pretty sure they just lost to the Bulls now, which is an absolutely crazy thing to think about. Yeah, they're down 6 with 6 seconds to go, or 5. Math is hard. Not great, but regardless, go check out the Bucks feed for all things Milwaukee Bucks. The Milwaukee Brewers are nearing an extension for Jackson Chourio, their pre-Major League All-Star, hopefully to be an All-Star. So Adam and Andrew had touched on that in their latest episode of Cruising for a Bruising, which came out this week, so go check that out. Make Time for This. I think it still is Killers of the Flower Moon and Martin Scorsese's thing. I was wrong. What am I talking about? David Fincher returned for an episode of his movie The Killer. So go watch that, or listen to that rather, as they talk about The Killer. So I think that's it, Jordan. You can find me at Numac and Jordan on Twitter. You can find Jordan at Jordan Chesky on Twitter. Rate and review on your podcast app listening of choice, I guess. Is that? It's late. I'm tired. The point being, rate 5 stars. Leave a comment. We'd appreciate it. So check us out on Sunday on the YouTube for the live podcast. Subscribe there. The whole 9 yards. We appreciate you all as always. Hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving. And it's now December as you're listening to this. Oh my God. So we're going to wrap up the season. And with that, Jordan, we are wrapping up this episode. Thank you all for listening. And Jordan, thank you.
Thank you.